Good evening, everyone. I want to talk to you tonight about something incredibly powerful, something that no one can take away from you, something that cannot be bargained for, compromised, or negotiated. That something is who you are. In a world that constantly tries to shape us, to tell us who we should be, how we should look, what we should want, it's easy to lose sight of our true essence. It's easy to get swept up in the noise, the opinions, the expectations, and for a moment to forget that you were born whole and the beauty of who you are is enough. You see, too many of us, myself included, have at times found ourselves at a crossroads faced with decisions, with people, with situations that make us question ourselves. Maybe we think we have to prove something, or maybe we feel we have to adjust who we are to fit in. But I want to remind you of something so important tonight. Do not negotiate who you are. Your value is not determined by the people around you, by your circumstances, or by the validation you get from the world. Your worth, your worthiness is inherent. It is not for sale. You don't have to change, shrink, or shape-shift to be accepted. This is your life, your journey. And in this moment right now, it is crucial to recognize that who you are is enough. And no one, no situation, no hardship can ever take that away from you unless you allow it. There will be times, maybe even today, when you feel tempted to shrink. Maybe you'll be told you're too much, too loud, too bold, or maybe on the flip side, you'll be told you're not enough. But I'm here to tell you, don't buy into those lies. You are enough. You are more than enough. You are perfectly, beautifully you. When you stand firm in who you are, when you refuse to negotiate your authenticity, you create a space of power around you. And in that space, others will see the reflection of their own worth. They will begin to see that they too don't have to shrink to fit into someone else's mold. Protect your peace, guard your heart, set those boundaries. When you show up as your true, authentic self, you are not just honoring yourself, you are honoring everyone around you because your truth gives others the permission to stand in theirs. So I ask you, as you move through the world, as you encounter moments of doubt or confusion, I ask you to remember you are not for sale. Your soul is not negotiable. Your essence is sacred. Stand firm in it. And when you do that, when you stand in your full, beautiful, unshakable truth, you will discover a freedom that comes from within, a freedom that no one, nothing, and no circumstance can ever take from you. Thank you. I want you to think for a moment about the very essence of who you are, not who you think you should be, not who society expects you to be, not who you have tried to become to fit in or to please others. No, I want you to think about the real you, the version of yourself that is unfiltered, unapologetically honest, and completely whole. That person you were born to be. There is an incredible power in embracing your authentic self. I cannot emphasize this enough. There is no greater gift you can give to the world or to yourself than to live in alignment with who you truly are. To show up every day as the most you version of you, to unapologetically walk in your truth, even when it's difficult, even when it feels uncomfortable, and especially when the world might try to convince you to be something else. Why do we struggle so much with authenticity? Why do we often find ourselves hiding parts of who we are, dimming our light, or pretending to be someone we're not? It starts early, doesn't it? From childhood, we learn that the world around us often values conformity over individuality. We're taught to fit in, to be like everyone else, to follow the rules. As we get older, the pressure to meet expectations grows, whether from our families, our peers, or even from society at large. And somewhere along the way, we begin to believe that we have to change, mold, or adapt ourselves to be loved, to be accepted, to be seen. But the truth is, the moment you start to suppress who you are is the moment you begin to lose your power. It's in those moments when you betray your own truth that you give away your peace, your confidence, and your sense of self. You become a version of yourself that's not even real, a version you created to appease others, and that's not the life you were meant to live. What if I told you that the most powerful thing you could ever do in your life, the one thing that could change everything, is to let go of the need to be anyone other than who you already are? Imagine just for a second how liberating that would be. When you embrace your authentic self, you stop seeking approval, you stop looking for permission, you stop measuring your worth by external standards. Instead, you define your own value based on the belief that you, just as you are worthy of love, happiness, and success. No one else's opinion, no one else's definition of success, or no one else's standards matter because you are already whole. You don't need to shrink or become something you're not to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. I get it. It's not always easy. There are so many voices in the world, right? So many opinions, so many comparisons, so many filters, so many judgments. It can feel like you're walking through a world full of mirrors, each one telling you that you should look a little different, act a little different, act a little different. Be a little different. It's exhausting, isn't it? But the thing about mirrors is that they only reflect what's in front of them. They reflect an image, but they don't capture the soul, the heart, the essence of who you are. And if you're only looking at yourself through the distorted mirrors of the world around you, you'll never truly see your own beauty, your own value, or your own truth. You'll always be chasing something that isn't real. So I want to ask you something. What if, for once, you stopped looking at all the mirrors and just started looking within? What if you trusted that the version of you that's sitting in this room, or wherever you may be, is exactly who you're meant to be? What if you decided right now to let go of all the shoulds, the musts, and the what ifs, and just stood in the power of your own authenticity? You see, authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's not about fitting into a mold or achieving some idealistic image of what others deem as right. Authenticity is about embracing your flaws and imperfections and recognizing that they are part of what makes you unique. It's about owning your story, the beautiful and messy parts, and understanding that your journey has shaped you into exactly who you're supposed to be in this moment. And when you embrace your authentic self, you open the door to so much more than just freedom. You open the door to connection, because let me tell you something: people don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. We are all craving realness in a world that so often feels fake, filtered, and superficial. When you show up as yourself, unfiltered, raw, and true, you give others permission to do the same. You create space for real relationships, real growth, and real joy. Now, I want to share something personal. There was a time in my life when I tried to fit into a box. I tried to meet the expectations of others, be it family, friends, society, or even my own inner critic. I thought I needed to look a certain way, act a certain way, and achieve certain things to be worthy of love and respect. But every time I did that, every time I tried to be something I wasn't, I felt like I was losing myself. I felt drained, disconnected, and exhausted. It wasn't until I started embracing the person I truly was, all of me, the good, the bad, and everything in between, that I began to feel a sense of peace. And that peace wasn't just about how I felt about myself. It was about how I showed up for the world. When I embraced my authenticity, the world began to embrace me in ways I never expected. Doors opened, opportunities arose. But more importantly, I began to experience life on my own terms, and it was the most liberating feeling. So I ask you this: what would your life look like if you embraced who you truly are? What if you stopped editing yourself, stopped second-guessing yourself, and just decided that you're worthy of every good thing that comes your way simply because you are you? You don't have to fit into anyone else's definition of success or happiness. You don't have to wear someone else's version of beauty. You don't have to live up to someone else's expectations. The only expectation you need to meet is your own. And the truth is, your authentic self, your purest, most beautiful self, is enough. I believe with everything in me that the world needs the real you. The world needs your voice, your story, your talents, your heart. There is no one else in this world who can offer what you have to give. So embrace it, own it, step into it fully. Because when you embrace your authentic self, you free not just yourself, but everyone around you. You create space for others to show up as their true selves. And together, we create a world where authenticity is celebrated, a world where we are all free to be who we are without apology. And that, my friends, is the most beautiful gift we can give to ourselves and to the world. Thank you. I want to talk to you today about something that is at the very core of your being, your self-worth. This, my friends, is a topic that is both simple and profound. Simple because it's a truth that lives deep inside of us, but profound because all too often we forget it, question it, or allow others to diminish it. Your self-worth is non-negotiable. Let me say that again, your self-worth is non-negotiable. It's not for sale, it's not up for discussion, and it can never be altered by what others think of you, say about you, or do to you. Your worth is intrinsic. It's part of who you are, and it was never meant to be bartered or compromised. In the world we live in, we are constantly being told that our worth is dependent on external factors. Society has a way of assigning value based on appearance, status, accomplishments, or the approval of others. We are led to believe that if we don't fit into certain molds, if we don't have certain things, or if we're not living up to someone else's expectations, we're somehow less than. But let me be clear, this is a lie. Your worth is not defined by what you own or how you look. Your worth is not defined by the career you have, the followers you have on social media, or the people who approve or disapprove of your choices. Your worth is not even defined by the mistakes you've made or the flaws you carry with you. You were born worthy just as you are. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and beautiful. Now, I know that we live in a world that tells us over and over again that we have to earn our value. We're taught that success and recognition are the ultimate measures of our worth. But let's stop for a moment and think, if our worth is dependent on these things, what happens when those things fail? What happens when the job is lost, the relationship ends, or we don't achieve the success we thought we would? Are we less valuable then? Are we any less worthy of love, joy, and respect? Of course not. We are all worthy simply because we exist. Your worth is not earned. It is not conditional on anything you do, how many mistakes you make, or how many people validate you. It's a birthright, a constant. It is yours from the moment you were created. But here's the catch: if we don't believe this, if we don't see ourselves as worthy from the inside out, others won't see it either. We teach people how to treat us. If we accept less than we deserve, if we allow others to treat us poorly or disrespectfully, we are sending the message that we don't truly believe in our own value. So I ask you today, how much are you willing to allow others to diminish your worth? How many times will you silence your voice or shrink your dreams because someone told you that you weren't good enough? How many times will you let someone else's opinion or rejection become the measure of your own value? Your self-worth is not determined by how others see you or by how well you meet their expectations. Your worth is decided by you. It's about what you believe about yourself and how much you value yourself. And when you truly value yourself, you create boundaries, healthy, loving, firm boundaries that say, I deserve to be treated with respect. I deserve to be loved just as I am. I will not accept anything less than that. It's crucial that you realize this. You don't need to negotiate your worth with anyone. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to justify why you matter. You don't need to apologize for taking up space in this world. You are worthy of all the good things that life has to offer: love, success, peace, joy, not because of anything you've done, but because you are you. And yet, too often we fall into the trap of seeking external validation, hoping that someone else will give us the affirmation that we're enough. We look for approval from our families, our friends, our employers, our partners, and while support and encouragement are important, no one else can define your worth except for you. When you attach your worth to someone else's opinion, you give them power over your happiness, your peace, and your sense of self. Think about it. If someone else is in control of your self-worth, then your worth is constantly in jeopardy. They might praise you today, but reject you tomorrow. And then where does that leave you? Constantly on the edge, always trying to prove your value, always chasing someone else's approval. That's exhausting, and ultimately it's unfulfilling. I want to remind you that you are not a product to be evaluated, a trophy to be won, or a check mark on someone else's to-do list. You are a unique, irreplaceable individual with a soul that carries incredible value. You are enough just as you are. Let me tell you something else. When you truly understand that your worth is non-negotiable, you start to make different choices. You start to surround yourself with people who see you, who respect you, and who honor your boundaries. You start to say no to situations that drain you or diminish your spirit. You stop settling for relationships, jobs, or circumstances that make you feel small because you know you deserve more. You begin to stand taller, walk with more confidence, and speak with more authority because you have made the decision that your worth will never be up for discussion. But it all starts with you. You are the one who sets the standard for how others treat you. You are the one who decides how you will be valued in this world. And the way you treat yourself, the way you honor yourself, the way you hold your own worth as sacred, that's the way others will treat you too. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. This doesn't mean that you won't face challenges or setbacks. It doesn't mean that you won't have moments of doubt or difficulty. It doesn't mean you won't face rejection or criticism. But what it does mean is that no matter what happens, no matter what anyone says or does, you will always remember you are worthy, you are valuable, you are enough. Your self-worth is non-negotiable because it's not something that can be taken from you. It's not something that can be diminished. It's something you carry inside of you, and the more you honor it, the more you will see that the world will begin to honor it too. So I ask you to stand in your worth today. Stand tall, stand proud. Stand proud, shaken in the truth that you are enough just as you are right now. Your self-worth is a birthright, and it is non-negotiable. No one can take it from you unless you give them permission. Let today be the day you stop negotiating with your worth. Let today be the day you stand firm in your power, knowing that you are worthy of everything good that life has to offer. Thank you. I want to take a moment to talk about something that can truly transform the way you live, the way you interact with others, and the way you honor your self-boundaries. The power of standing firm in your boundaries is something that cannot be overstated. It is an essential part of taking control of your life and creating the space you need to thrive. And yet, so many of us struggle with setting boundaries, or worse, we set them but fail to enforce them. So let's start with the basics. What are boundaries? At their core, boundaries are simply the limits we set in our lives to protect our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Boundaries tell the world where we end and where others begin. They define what we are willing to accept and what we are willing to accept and what we are not. They establish what is okay and what is not, and they are a reflection of how we value ourselves. Boundaries are not about pushing people away or creating walls between us and others. They're about self-respect and self-care. Boundaries are how we communicate to the world, this is how I want to be treated. This is what I need to feel safe, respected, and valued. But here's the hard truth. Setting boundaries is one of the hardest things we will ever do. Why? Because boundaries often mean saying no, and we are conditioned from an early age to be people pleasers. We are taught to be agreeable, to put others first, to be accommodating. We fear rejection or conflict, so we shrink ourselves to avoid upsetting anyone. We don't want to disappoint. We don't want to cause tension. And we often think that if we just give a little more, if we just push ourselves a little harder, everyone will be happy, and we will be happy, and we will be loved. But here's the thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. You cannot give and give and give and give without replenishing yourself, without honoring your own needs. You cannot continue to accommodate the needs of others while neglecting your own. This will lead to burnout, resentment, and an eventual loss of yourself. The truth is, you teach people how to treat you. If you do not set clear boundaries, if you do not stand firm in your limits, you allow others to dictate your emotional landscape, your time, and your energy. So let me be crystal clear, your boundaries are not negotiable. They are there for your protection, for your peace of mind, and for your well-being. And if you don't enforce them, you are telling the world that you don't matter as much as others. You're telling the world that your needs can be ignored, that your feelings are secondary, and that your time is not as valuable as someone else's. But the good news is you have the power to change this. You have the ability to stand firm in your boundaries and reclaim your time, your energy, and your sense of self. Let me tell you, it is not easy. Setting boundaries requires courage, it requires confidence, and yes, it requires discomfort. Because when you begin to stand firm in your boundaries, when you begin to say no to things that drain you or violate your peace, there will be pushback. People will test you. They may be surprised, they may be upset, or they may try to make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. But this is where your strength lies. Standing firm in your boundaries is an act of self-respect. It is an act of saying, I am worthy of my own time, my own peace, and my own energy. I am worthy of being treated with kindness, consideration, and respect. I am worthy of being surrounded by people who honor my limits and care about my well-being. And let's be clear, boundaries do not make you a bad person. Boundaries do not mean you don't care about others or that you're selfish. In fact, the opposite is true. When you set healthy boundaries, you are teaching people how to love and respect you. You are showing them that you care enough about yourself to set limits, and by doing so, you create healthier, more balanced relationships where everyone's needs are honored. Now, it's also important to note that boundaries aren't just about saying no to others. They're about saying yes to yourself. They're about carving out the time you need for self-care, for rest, for reflection. They're about choosing what serves you and your well-being and letting go of what doesn't. When you stand firm in your boundaries, you send a clear message to the world that your needs matter, that you will no longer be invisible or neglected. So let me ask you, what are your boundaries? What are the things you need to protect in order to live a life that is peaceful, joyful, and authentic? Do you need time alone to recharge? Do you need space to focus on your passions? Do you need to say no to certain relationships or situations that drain you? Do you need to protect your energy from toxic influences or negativity? Remember, boundaries are not selfish. Boundaries are necessary. Without them, we lose ourselves. Without them, we allow others to overstep and take more than what's fair, and in doing so, we create a life where we are constantly overwhelmed, overextended, and unfulfilled. But when you stand firm in your boundaries, you create space for what truly matters. You create space for love, for peace, for joy, and for the things that truly nourish your soul. You create space for your own growth, for your own dreams, and for your own sense of self-worth. You begin to live life on your own terms. It's also important to note that your boundaries may change over time. What you need today might not be what you need tomorrow. Your boundaries are not static, they evolve as you grow and as your life circumstances change. It's okay to reassess your boundaries regularly and adjust them to reflect where you are in your life. What's most important is that you are always honoring your needs and that you are always staying true to yourself. And here's something that I really want you to take with you today. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your boundaries. You don't need to justify why you need space, why you need rest, or why you need time for yourself. You don't need to apologize for saying no or for putting yourself first. Your boundaries are yours, and you get to decide what they are. For many of us, standing firm in our boundaries can feel uncomfortable, especially if we've spent years letting others cross them. But I promise you the discomfort you feel in the short term is nothing compared to the peace, clarity, and strength you'll feel in the long run. And one more thing, standing firm in your boundaries requires practice. At first, it might feel awkward or even scary. You might worry about disappointing others, or you might fear that people will push back. But with time, the more you stand firm, the easier it becomes. You'll begin to recognize that you have the power to protect your space, your energy, and your time, and in doing so, you empower yourself to live a life that reflects your true values, your true desires, and your true worth. So I challenge you today, honor your boundaries. Stand firm in them without hesitation or apology. Trust that by doing so, you are not just protecting yourself, but also creating the foundation for deeper, more meaningful relationships, greater peace of mind, and a life that is truly aligned with who you are. Because when you stand firm in your boundaries, you are saying, I am worthy of respect. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of peace. And that is the most powerful statement you can make to the world and to yourself. Thank you. When we talk about leadership, we often think about titles, positions, and authority. We think of CEOs, politicians, or people who hold power over others in some way. But real leadership is not about titles or authority. Real leadership is about how you show up in the world. It's about how you inspire, how you influence, and how you move others to be better versions of themselves. And one of the most powerful ways to lead, the most transformative, lasting way to lead, is to lead with love. Now, I know what you might be thinking, love. Isn't that a bit too soft for leadership? Aren't leaders supposed to be strong, decisive, and tough? And I get it. We've been taught for so long that leadership is about power, control, and being right. We've been conditioned to believe that showing vulnerability, compassion, and empathy in a leadership role makes us appear weak, indecisive, or ineffective. But here's the truth: true strength comes from love. It comes from the ability to lead with an open heart, to approach challenges with compassion, and to inspire others by the way you care for them. Love is the foundation of great leadership. And I'm not talking about the kind of love that is soft or passive. I'm talking about the love that is bold, that is fierce, that is unwavering and unapologetic. The kind of love that inspires action, that sparks change, and that transforms hearts and minds. To lead with love is to recognize that leadership is not about the ego, it's about service. It's about uplifting others, empowering them to be their best selves, and helping them reach their full potential. It's about seeing the humanity in everyone you encounter and understanding that at the end of the day, we all have the same needs to feel valued, to feel understood, and to feel seen. And when you lead with love, you tap into this universal truth. You tap into the deepest part of what it means to be human. But before you can lead with love, you must empower yourself. You must first recognize that love is not something you can give from an empty cup. You cannot pour love, compassion, and kindness into others if you are not filling yourself up with it first. Self-love is the root of all love. When you love yourself, when you value yourself, respect yourself, and honor your own needs and boundaries, you create a wellspring of energy that allows you to extend that same love to others. You cannot give what you do not have. And when you learn to lead from a place of self-love, you model that love for everyone around you. Empowering yourself to lead with love means acknowledging that your worth is not determined by how much you give, but by how much you value yourself. It means recognizing that your capacity to love, to inspire, and to lead comes from a place of inner strength, self-acceptance, and deep-rooted confidence. And that confidence is not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being comfortable with who you are, flaws and all, and knowing that your unique perspective, your unique gifts are what make you capable of leading in a way that only you can. The truth is, when you lead with love, you create an environment where people feel safe, valued, and inspired. People don't follow leaders who demand respect, they follow leaders who give respect. People don't follow leaders who wield power for the sake of power, they follow leaders who use their influence to elevate others. And the most powerful way to elevate others is to lead with compassion, empathy, and a deep understanding that each person you encounter is deserving of your love, not because they've earned it, but because they are worthy of it. But let's be clear, leading with love does not mean being a doormat. It does not mean sacrificing your own well-being, your values, or your sense of self in the name of kindness. Leading with love means being firm in your boundaries, being clear in your intentions, and being uncompromising in your commitment to what is right. Love is not about being passive, it's about being proactive. It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about saying no when you need to, and yes when it serves both your own well-being and the well-being of others. Leading with love also means embracing vulnerability. We often think of vulnerability as a weakness, something that makes us exposed and susceptible to harm. But vulnerability is actually one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate as a leader. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, when you show others that you are human, that you don't have all the answers, and that you too make mistakes, you create connection. You show others that it's okay to be imperfect, that it's okay to learn, and that it's okay to grow. You create a space where people feel comfortable being themselves, where they feel they can bring their whole selves to the table without fear of judgment. Vulnerability in leadership allows you to connect on a deeper level. It allows you to build trust, not by hiding your imperfections, but by showing them and owning them. When you show up as a leader with a heart full of love and an openness to be vulnerable, you create an environment where others feel empowered to do the same. And here's what I want you to understand: love is a choice. It's a daily practice. It's something you choose every single day in the way you show up for others, in the way you lead with compassion, in the way you hold space for people to be themselves. You cannot wait for love to find you. You cannot wait for the world to change in order for you to love others. You must lead with love, even when it feels hard, even when it feels like the world is throwing obstacles in your way. Because when you choose love, you break down barriers, you heal wounds, you inspire change. Love also means having the courage to lead through difficult conversations, to speak up when things aren't right, and to stand up for the voiceless. Love means creating a culture where everyone is seen, heard, and respected. It means making decisions that serve the collective good, not just your own interests. It means using your influence to lift others, especially those who are marginalized, oppressed, or silenced. When you lead with love, you become a force for positive change, one that ripples out, touching people in ways that go far beyond your immediate circle. And here's something incredibly important to remember: love is not passive. Love is not about waiting for others to change or for circumstances to improve. Love is an active, dynamic force that requires action. Leading with love means you take responsibility for the energy you bring into a room. It means you choose to create an environment where kindness, empathy, and compassion are at the forefront, where everyone feels empowered, where everyone's voice matters. When you empower yourself to lead with love, you inspire others to do the same. You create a ripple effect that starts with you, and it grows. The more you lead with love, the more love you will see in the world. And that is the most powerful form of leadership there is.